Well, this is a different kind of video for us today. We're actually canning. And we've started doing that, and it's been a really efficient way for one, to store our venison, but two, just for eating in general. I mean, a quart jar is always ready to open up and add to mashed potatoes, soup, chili, tacos, burritos, whatever floats your boat and what you think you can add really tasty venison to. So I wanted to show that process. And I can admit, it was intimidating for Jen and I to start this out and start this process. I received a canner for Christmas years ago, and it was kind of like, it just sat there because we were intimidated. I'm gonna try to make this not intimidating for you. And we're gonna go through each step. I apologize in advance if I miss something, but as you guys know, regular subscribers, I spend a lot of time in the comments, Jen probably will too, answering questions. So if there's anything we miss, please comment below, and you can bet that we'll hit those comments. We try to answer them all. YouTube tells me I answer about 10,000 a year, but we do miss them. But we'll do our best. This process right here, we found with this bowl right here, our canner can fit 7 full quarts in. That's with a little space between each jar. You don't want those jars pressed up against each other, jiggling back and forth when they're cooking. They could crack. So we found that if we have our venison about level with the top of this, then that's going to fill our 7 quart jars. So what we're doing is we're taking venison. This buck was actually shot in Pennsylvania this year on public land. And we're gonna keep cutting and filling this up right now. I would suspect we only have about 15, 20 minutes of trimming. And we're trimming off everything. We're making it very clean. And it's kind of a tedious process, but we want the meat to be pretty clean, and it's gonna fully cook it. It's gonna be beautiful in the end. We wanna take the time to trim it up, make it look pretty. We'll fill this up. That'll be enough for the 7 quarts, and then we'll continue this from there. Gotta complete this next step first. Now, one thing I wanna add too, when this meat is half frozen, you probably know this, but way easier to cut. So I'm taking off a little bit of silver skin right here, fat, tallow, whatever it might be. When it's frozen, so much easier to just trim that right off and get a clean cut of meat. So something to keep in mind. We did find out this is a 6 quart bowl. We're actually going above that 6 quart line. It's more level. And then we're leaving a little bit of space in here in each jar. And you can see we have a funnel right here. We have some green peppers and onion. We use those as a meat tenderizer, and also to add a little bit more flavor. And I've seen people use pineapple for that, so you probably have your favorite that you like out there. We're using the funnel so you don't get the tops of the jars dirty or any kind of meat residue, any kind of foreign material, because that will inhibit the canning process. So we actually use the funnel, get everything in there, and it's probably overkill, but we clean the top again before we put the lid on. So we're gonna add the peppers, onions first. We put those on the bottom, and then the meat second. And again, you know, we're fairly new to this canning process. I've eaten a lot of canned venison, but as far as doing it ourselves, we're fairly new at this. So in the comments below, we really love the discussion down there. If you have some other ideas, feel free to leave them. But this is what's worked for us, and we really enjoy this process. So we're kind of honing that in, and maybe you'll help us hone in a little bit better with the comments below. So I'm gonna go ahead, green pepper, onions in here. We'll get the meat in here. And then when we know it's right, use this or use it not, but this tool allows us to put this on the rim of the quart jar, and that's the level that we want to fill the venison to. We can also use this to pack it down, and then we use something like this to pack it down as well. So we get it nice and tight, packed down in that jar, and the next step will be getting those in the can. So let's complete this, and we'll go to the next step after. Now's the time. We have all the meat packed in the jars. We use that measuring tool, and one of the things about that is you can't have air trapped in those pockets. My son-in-law Joe brought up that it can be, with that air pocket in there, there's talk of the jars cracking or breaking because of the air pocket. So we want to make sure that's eliminated. Now, the recipe we've used before, and I'll put this in the description, and it was something we kind of came up with suggestion and on our own, and is 1 rounded teaspoon of salt, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. We add just a few drops of Worcestershire to that, and then we have the onions and green peppers, and that's been it. We've had a couple suggestions of using Better Than Bullion beef base. And so what we're using in place, we're going to try this with this batch, and we'll let you know if it sucks or we don't like it. But we're going to use 1 teaspoon of the Better Than Bullion. Again, we have the onions and peppers in here, and we're just going to try that. We just want to try something different. And so again, we'll let you know in the comments below what we like about one or the other. And but again, our normal recipe, a rounded teaspoon of salt, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then a few drops of Worcestershire. We're going to try this, and we'll let you know. And that's the cool thing about canning. I encourage you, you can't just find one recipe and go with it. You want to always try to improve it every time, and you'll hone it into what's your favorite. So we're going to start adding that to the, and we're just putting that right on the top here. And in the canning process, that'll mix completely through the entire quart jar. Pretty cool how that does that. It's crazy how much this meat shrinks during that process too. So we'll start doing that and head on to the next step after this. Okay, we've added the Better Than Bullion, and we put these lids in hot water just to help them seal. Jen's already wiped off the tops right here in that rim of the quart jar, and we'll get this sealed up and head to actual canning. So we have our 7 quarts here of venison all set and ready to go. The next step, we're going to add 3.5 quarts of water to the can. So we're going to do that. Then we'll place these evenly around, one in the middle, and that'll keep them from shaking and hitting each other. And we'll get started. Now we're going to get this started, and there's a few things you have to pay attention to. We're going to turn this on high and get a lot of flame to it. And what it'll do is it'll build up steam in here, and this right here will indicate it'll actually pop up. That lets you know it's building pressure on the inside, and steam will start pouring out of here. And when the steam starts pouring out, it's visible, then we're waiting 10 minutes. You have to wait at least 10 minutes. And then this is a jiggler right here. And once you put this on top here, it's literally going to start jiggling, and you don't want it jiggling like crazy. And what we're doing is you're turning that down. Let's say the stove right now is set on 9, and on a scale of 1 to 10. And we're finding that this jiggles at about the right pressure. It's just a light little dance like this at right around 1.5 to 1 3/4, close to 2, right around there. And once you get the steam coming out, and again, you wait 10 minutes, put the jiggler on. This will be dancing around. Once you get this dancing around, then, and you're going to keep it moving, then we can set the timer. We're setting the timer for 90 minutes when we're using these 7 quarts like this in this full canner. So we'll wait till that process happens. We'll put this on, and what you can't let happen is once you start that jiggling process, and you know, you might even fluctuate where it's a little bit faster than you want, you turn it down slightly, make small movements. I found as you're turning down the temperature, what you can't do is let it stop jiggling, because that means there's not enough pressure built in here. They have different weights of these. I want to say this is a 10, and if you're in a higher elevation, use a different one. I think it's 15. But bottom line is, we're going to put this on. If you let it stop jiggling, that means that there's a lack of pressure. That means the canning process has stopped, and you actually have to stop your timer and start over at the 90-minute mark again. So we don't want that to happen, and so that's why you're making small adjustments back. We're going to adjust ours from 9.5, 10 all the way down to about 1.5 to 2. And we'll let this build up that pressure right now, get the jiggler on, and we'll show you how that works. And then once it's at that 90-minute mark and you're setting it, then that's really all you have to do. And we'll talk about how we let it set after that at the end. And we'll be done with this, what seems like intimidating process at first, and is really not. So we have our indicator of the pressure is built up, is popped up. And then also we have that steam coming out. So I've actually turned it down to about 3 right now. And I'll probably inch it down a little bit more, but we're gonna watch that steam come out for about 8 to 9 more minutes, and we'll put the jiggler on there. Now, there is a pressure gauge on here, and I'm not saying you ignore that. Ours is usually running about 13, 14 on this scale, but it's most important that this jiggler is dancing the right way and that it's dancing at all. So that's the ultimate determination of pressure. So we'll give this a little bit more time and stick the jiggler on there. Now this pressure's been building for about 10 minutes, been steaming really well. I did have to turn it back up. This indicator started to go down a little bit. So now I'm going to add the jiggler, and you'll see it'll take a little bit of time to build up more pressure because this keeps that steam in there. So we'll put this back on, and you can see it's not jiggling right now because now pressure will build up within the canner, and we'll wait for this to start moving. It doesn't take that long, and you can see this pressure gauge will start to now build slowly. So once it's built up there, then I'll adjust it to keep this not dancing as much. This will really start dancing here in a little bit. You can see right now it's just starting to dance a little bit, and the pressure is moving up to almost 10, and it will move up a little bit further. This will get dancing, but it's really starting to start that process right now, and we're going to wait just a little bit longer to start turning down the heat and set that clock. So you can see that pressure is really building now on that jiggler. This is too much, and so we're at about 7 right now. We're going to cut this back. We're going to start our timer, 90 minutes. We're going to shut everything down, and then we let it set. So we'll start that process, and I think we can keep that jiggler moving now. At this point, we just got to cut the heat back. Well, you can see we've started our timer, and this jiggler isn't dancing as much. I have the heat down to 2. We'll probably end up moving what we found to about 1 3/4. But you can see you don't want this to stop moving because that indicates that there's not enough pressure in there. As soon as that stops, you have to start that timer over again. So at this point, we're happy being dancing a little bit more on the high side than the low side. We just want to keep it moving. So we're going to do that, and 90 minutes later, we're going to shut her down and then let it set and start to cool down on its own. That cooling down process is important too, because that's when those lids really, as it cools down, they get pressed tight and begin to seal. So we're going to take you to that process and show you what this looks like afterwards. So we got to the point in the videos, we went a little bit over time shooting. We're shooting videos in the other room, in our sound room. And then, so Jen got to 90 minutes and you turned this down.
Yes.
And you can still see though, there's still pressure built in here. The jiggler has stopped moving. So the jiggler's not moving anymore. And the pressure, what are we at right now?
It looks like we're about at 11.5 or 12.
So we were running at about 14.
Yeah, it was probably, yeah, I would say 14, 15.
And you can see there's not enough pressure to move this. And so this is at that point where everything's effectively canned.
Yeah, at this point we're just waiting for everything to seal. It'll seal as it cools.
Yeah. And now when it cools, you can't take the top off right now. Right. I don't even think it'd be possible. But, yeah. You need heavy equipment.
Something will blow up.
There's a lot of pressure in there. So we'll let this, we've let this stay shut for an hour to 2 hours on our batches.
And we left it overnight. We left it overnight, remember?
Yeah, so we'll give it a few hours. And what that's doing is it's allowing the jars to actually create that seal.
Well, and to just cool on their own.
Yeah, just cool everything down. So when we take those jars out, they'll be either close to it. Now we saw online, we watched someone, I think they only let it go 45 minutes maybe to an hour. And then they took those out, and you could watch some of those actually start to seal.
Yeah. And we have a tool that you can grab these jars out when they're hot, and then set them down, and then
But we'll probably let them go a lot cooler. We don't need to use a stovetop in the next couple hours, so we're going to let them go a few hours at least, and which is fine.
Yeah, and then we take the rings off, and then we store them and date them, and good to go.
Yeah. So that's our canning process. Again, we're open to criticism down in the comments below. That'll help us learn, and you too. So I love those comments down below, and we appreciate them. And now Jackson can go back to making noise and playing with his cars, right, Jackson?
Yeah.
You want to play with your cars?
Yeah. Or you want to play with Uncle Dylan? Yeah, Uncle Dylan.
Well, now it's time for the big reveal. You can check and see if the jar, we had one time. You really need to check your quart jars. Make sure there's no hairline crack anywhere, and make sure they're not touching each other in the actual can, so in the cooker.
We had one break. First time we did it.
Yeah, first time we did it, we had a mess. So we always now, every time we open it, it's kind of like, hope it did well.
It'll be fine.
What do you think, Jen?
I
Want me to open it in case it explodes or something?
Probably,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll do it. And we've let it set for, now it's been 3 hours,
Yeah.
right around there.
Yeah, I think so.
So, A-okay, all look good. So Jen's gonna start taking out, we have these tongs right here. You're not supposed to touch the lid. Some might be sealed, but they really need to cool down a lot. So as they sit here, you're gonna watch that lid, and as that pressure is released, it'll suck in, and it'll actually seal the quart jar. So everything looks good in there, but we'll let these sit for a while. Like I said, it's been 3 hours. It's still pretty warm in there.
Yeah,
still feel
they're
it.
still boiling. You can still see them.
Yeah, you can still see them boil a little bit. So as that cools down now to the outside pressure, then they'll come in. We're good, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
gonna
it's
taste
always a
real
good
good.
feeling. We like this because each one of those, we used a quart jar the other night for over mashed potatoes.
Yeah, and it's so good.
Yeah, and then we used a quart jar for chili.
Oh yeah,
And that was chili for basically 6 of us when you count the kids, Jackson. And
yeah, and you can eat it like multiple meals. We had it so.
yeah, and that was, we used some hamburger too. How much hamburger did you use with that quart jar?
A pound and a half.
It's about 1.5 pounds of hamburger with the quart jar, and it makes a really good addition. We used to use steak tips or steak chunks or beef or something, steak tips from deer, venison, but this is
So much better.
yeah, and it adds that extra flavor too.
Sure
so
does.
very flavorful. We can't wait to try the Better Than
I know.
Bullion.
We can.
Yeah, we'll.
Very soon.
It might be tonight. We've eaten it cold. We got so excited the first time we ate it cold right out of the jar.
I think we had it for breakfast, didn't we?
Yeah, we did have it for breakfast. So did Jackson, he liked it too.
Yeah, you did.
But anyways, we'll show you the jars here in a little bit. They'll all be sealed, and pretty cool how they're still boiling. We'll get a close-up of that. But thank you for following along. We look forward to reading the comments below. And I think that'll help us, help you, help other people that are commenting, other subscribers. So it's a pretty cool process. We appreciate you following along to the end. And we hope you like our hunting content. But if you're here for the canning, we appreciate it. Not our normal gig, but something we do. We really enjoy. And thank you.
So update on the recipe that we did yesterday with the beef bouillon, the peppers and the onions. We tried it this morning and we really enjoyed it. Sorry, Jeff isn't here. He's hunting currently in Wisconsin. Cold front day, so good day. We really enjoyed the recipe. I think one of the things that we will try for next time is we'll add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt in each jar. Other than that, these cans are ready to go on the shelf. We're just gonna remove those rings and then we are gonna date them. Ours aren't gonna last for years because I believe that we'll eat all of them. But we have read that these last like 5 to 10 years. So there was a guy that Jeff either read or had talked to that he got a jar from somebody that was like 6 years old and he tried it and it was awesome. So again, looking forward to putting them on the shelf. Glad that we could help all of you with a little bit of this. Please add your comments down there. This helps us. Hopefully it helps you. We hope you enjoyed the video.
It's that time of year. What do I mean? Christmas time. I just want to remind you of all the stuff that we have that you can buy to help your loved ones, yourself, achieve their whitetail dreams. We have all the books I've written, our web classes, our seed products, and if you're a really big spender, hire one of us to come out and design your parcel. We've actually had a few Christmas and birthday presents like that. Bottom line is there's a lot of tools to help you out. And if you don't want to spend anything at Christmas, we do a lot of free content for you. But check our Christmas stuff out, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, Pure Wildlife Blend Seed Company. Thanks for watching, guys, but most importantly, Merry Christmas.